Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 11 of the Apron Bumps Wrestling Podcast. I am your hostest with the mostest, Braster, Braden Mayhew, along with my co-host, Mr. Gabe Nozid. We have broken double digits. I did so with Brandon on the
I
prediction.
heard.
Yeah.
I
So
heard.
now we're almost hitting a dozen. Next episode will be number 12, but we're on number 11 right now. So already crazy. Because we
Pretty
don't
quick,
always do
man.
this. We don't always do this show every week. So it's like, oh,
Oh yeah, of
we're
course.
already getting it going here with double digits, and we're just coming off a great pay per view last night from the All Elite crew. I thought it was probably the best pay per view style show since things had to change and there's been like no live crowds in attendance. I think it's like the best like quarantine show that any promotion has put on since the situation has become what it's become.
Yeah, as I was watching it, I was kind of bored throughout some stuff, but I think back like, wow, this is actually really a good show, and I look back at like how great the MJF and Jungle Boy match really was and stuff like that, and
I
I just lost all boredom. I had 100% attention though on the main event. I was having a ball on that one, but we'll get to that later.
We will certainly get to that later. So I actually tuned into the buy-in for a bit. So
Oh really? How was that?
it was fine. I mean, it was decent. Private Party is kind of green.
Of course.
They haven't wrestled on television. It's been weeks, dude. Like at least like a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
So like they did their spots there, but there was just some messy stuff going on, and I like Chuck and Trent are pros, but even they were kind of blowing some stuff. Like it wasn't nearly as crisp as you would hope, like an AEW tag match to be, but some of the athleticism was still impressive where you say, oh, this isn't entirely shit, like you give, like all four guys worked hard, like they worked hard. Yeah, I can't deny that, but there was just as you say, remember how you say like there's something lacking with what's going on? You use that in our chat a lot when
Yeah,
describing. Yeah.
it's very vague, sometimes, but you just have that feeling though when it's
Mm-hmm.
missing something and you just can't point it out. And I
Well,
hate
I can
doing that.
actually
But
point it out. There was just a lot of
yeah,
miscommunication and two guys who are kind of green just being rusty after not being in the ring in a while, right? So,
of
like,
course.
that's kind of what went on. But, like, there was still some cool stuff. You had, like, a big shooting star from Quen onto Trent.
Oh my God,
And
his shooting stars look
it,
great.
it is. It does look very, very nice. And it was just some, like, messy Hurricane Ranas and arm drags and that kind of stuff where just, like, the execution looked ugly and, like, the fall from it after taking that bump, like, didn't look nice either. Like, it just looked messy on both sides. But I was kind of intrigued, and I watched because I wanted to test the quality of my stream, which of course it worked great for the pre-show. Then as soon as the main card kicked off, it froze immediately. I'll get into that when we go into the actual main card. So for the whole half hour that I watched, or like 20-25 minutes, it was fine. And at the end, Chuck removed Isaiah Cassidy from the equation, and Trent and him did their double team move. I think they call it Strong Zero, is like the double team move that they do, and they did it
That
on
name is used too much for a wrestling move. I hear that for every single wrestler.
Yeah, you gotta get just. We have a lot of words in the dictionary, right? So, like, I'm sure more words can be used to describe a move.
Yeah, I know. It's just like Strong Zero is a name for a
Mm,
bunch of different wrestling finishes, and I'm like, okay, there's Tony Storms, and there's another wrestler in Japan, and I'm like, okay,
mm-hmm.
which one's the definitive like Strong Zero like name
Yeah.
moniker?
So
So
anyway, that's apparently what best friends call their double team finish, and they hit Quen with it to pin him, and they became the number one contenders. As I said in the predictions before the show earlier in the week with Brandon, I suspected best friends were going to win this match. I did not think.
did you see Private Party do a G9 to pay homage to Shad?
Yeah, I did notice that. I was just about to bring that up. Yeah,
That was one thing I heard about from the buy-in.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's pretty
They had
cool.
it. The Private Party performed a few like vintage Crime Time spots during the match in tribute to Shad Gaspard, who unfortunately passed away last week. And I don't know what the whole situation was. Was it like he went swimming with his
Yeah, he
son,
went to
and
just yeah he went to spend time with his son swimming in the beach. So and then
it
I
turned
guess
obviously
the
it turned
Riptide.
tragic. Yeah.
Yep.
But
He's
he
just
was able
swept
to
them up.
save his kid, but it cost him his life in the end, which that's...
Yeah, apparently the lifeguards the last thing he said was like, take care of my son first and then get me or something like that. So, but he was swallowed, and then sadly this had to happen. But yep, he's gone.
Yeah, but his son was saved, and like really just a heroic gesture, like pretty much what like any loving father would do for
Oh
their
my
kid.
God, not just a loving father, he's a great person in general. Like every interview he's like just funny, and you can easily talk to him, and he's even stopped like a robbery on like camera
He
before.
did do that. That's right. I forgot about that a couple of years ago,
And
right?
Chad Gaspard is like the total opposite of what he portrayed in
Though
in WWE.
to be fair, Crime Time got very over despite like
Oh, I love Prime Time.
how not pushed they were.
They were
So-
like, I like the ironic twist that they're baby faces, and they just light up the whole crowd every time they just entered. I've never seen them as a heel other than their feud with each other, because WWE got a feud with each other for your tag team, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, they're just a great tag team.
They were, and I can't believe they never won the belts. They were like they were like Enzo and Cass before Enzo and Cass. They're like this popular team that did well, but like never got pushed to win the tag titles.
And they were still wrestling even before Shad's death, apparently, around the indie scene. So it's just...
Yeah, they were living the gimmick, too. They were doing... Or I shouldn't say living it, but they were still, like, doing the Crime Time shtick, like, on the independent circuit, which, again, it got over on the big stage, and that means if you can get over on the big stage, you can take those tools and get over on the smaller stages and do it well. So... Yes, that's that. My analysis of this here buy-in match was like, I seen Best Friends winning. They've been used consistently for the past 2 months. They've been building momentum on television, en route to building up to this pay-per-view. And Private Party is a long-term investment. The guys are green and young. They got tons of time left. A loss here doesn't hurt them, as I explained on the predictions. And again, it was action-packed. It was what you would expect from two teams like this. It's just... a bit of disjointed action from Cassidy and Quen because they're green a bit and they haven't really had like a big time televised match in I feel like at least 2 months. I mean, it could be less than that, but it feels like at least 60 days since the last time I've seen these guys compete. So that's my thought on the buy-in. So then we move on to the actual main card, which kicked off at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern last night, and
like you, I was also having a stream.
Yes. So like as soon as the main promo package started, my first stream cut out and just crashed. Oh no, it froze and stayed frozen in the exact same frame for like what felt like a half hour. So I found another one in the list of my pay-per-view live events options on my little like Fire Stick programming that I pay a couple $100 for twice a year. It's cheaper than cable, so it works most of the time, but for pay-per-views, sometimes it can be a little shoddy. And so this second stream worked for the promo package right until they were going to do the introductions for the casino ladder match, and it just crashed and went black. And then I had to like sort through a bunch of nameless pay-per-view like stream options. Like after that, they go like pay-per-view 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there's no list for any of them. It's just a bunch of pay-per-view and numbers. So then I went through all 1 through 7, and then finally on 7, there was a proper stream to the pay-per-view, and then I had pretty much no issue after that. Except I did have to go down one more again, and I'll explain where it froze, and I had to kind of go to an older stream that was now working again. But anyway, it worked for a while, and this was they kicked off with the casino ladder match. It was a 9-man ladder match for a future World Championship opportunity, using that same casino gimmick. There was a battle royal. They did it last year's Double or Nothing. That was also for a world title match. Interesting that it was on the pre-show, the buy-in, last year, and Hangman Page won that to... I guess he got a match with Chris Jericho later on down the line to determine the first ever AEW World Champion. So this is a ladder match with like Royal Rumble style entrance. So Scorpio Sky came out first, and then he was immediately followed by Frankie Kazarian. So SCU, both members of the tag team, were starting off this match. So they kind of... sprinted back and forth and kind of did their own thing until Kip Sabian came out, and he was number 3. And the commentators were like, well, SCU's in a 2-on-1 situation here. Kip might be in trouble. And then no sooner after they say that does Jimmy Havoc show up and take out both Sky and Kazarian with a ladder. Kazarian with a beautiful German suplex onto the ladder that really spelled the end for Jimmy Havoc. I don't remember him doing all too much after taking that bump. And then after that, Darby Allin entered at number 4. I should mention that between the entrants, there was 2 minutes. So there was 2-minute intervals between each of the entrants. So you start with 2 guys, and then it was every 2 minutes somebody else would enter. So Darby came out, and he wiped out both Kip and Havoc, who was kind of selling his injuries at ringside. With it's just the craziest tope ever. It looks so uncontrolled when he goes through those ropes. It's like, I don't know how he lands and doesn't get hurt.
Oh, his Lope is really suicidal.
You know what I mean? It looks nuts.
Yeah.
It looks like he's gonna break his neck every time he does it.
Oh my god!
It's like, how does he survive that move?
Later on, he did a really weird dive, but I think you'll talk about it then.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that pretty soon. Yeah, so he ends up taking out Kazarian with his skateboard of all things, which is part of his gimmick, and so then he sets up this ladder across the ring and the barricade with no fans. I love how each wrestling show needs to use those guardrails. But he sets a ladder up between the ring and that. He puts Kazarian on it, and then he climbs up the ladder with his skateboard, and I kid you not, he does a Tony Hawk style skateboard trick off of the ladder through Kazarian, through the ladder at ringside, and he sold this knee like he'd actually 100% blown it out, and the spot was so...
Oh my god.
The spot was so unorthodox, I almost believed he'd actually injured himself in that moment.
It looked...
yeah.
It made me feel like, that pain where you, I guess if you're walking on, some, dress shoes and you split on your heel or something for a quick second. That's what I felt when I saw him land on, the ground. I wouldn't have done that.
It's
okay.
Yeah, he is okay. I haven't heard anything about injury. And then he did stuff after that. He got up and was doing stuff, which we'll get to. But he came out. He basically took out everybody, literally everybody. And then he just does this crazy skateboard trick off of a ladder through another guy through a ladder. It was just nuts. It was absolutely crazy is what it was. And then so the match is really starting to pick up, but then comes out Orange Cassidy at number 5. And when they say he's the king of sloth style, that was never on display more than his entrance here. So he takes so long, he's so lackadaisical, he walks so slow that pretty much by the time he's maybe halfway down the ramp, we're getting number 6. Who's Colt Cabana. So Colt Cabana is basically, he's coming out, he's at entrant number 6, and maybe by this time Cassidy is just about in the ring. I'm not kidding you. It took him 2 minutes to go from the gorilla position to the ring. So Cabana comes out and he dumps Cassidy to the floor and he sets up a ladder and he's looking to climb up and end it as quick as he can. But then Kip Sabian and Kazarian tip the ladder over, and basically Cabana crushes his fingers on his way down or whatever. he sold his fingers off of the fall, and then Orange Cassidy ends up doing his trademark wimpy kicks to SCU. They stand there, they look at him, and he does the little tiny tap of the shin with his foot and does that. Then obviously they both take him out with pretty much relative ease. They use their tag team maneuver to take him out. And then after that, Joey Janela comes out. He's entrant number 7. He replaced the injured Rey Fenix. This was originally Rey Fenix's spot in the match, but he suffered an injury on Dynamite the Wednesday before and was not medically cleared to compete, so he was replaced by Janela. And Janela went nuts. So he takes out Colt Cabana.
Cannonball, right?
Yeah, he took out Colt Cabana with a massive drop kick. What's that?
This is where I joined in the stream.
So this is when you actually started watching it? Okay.
Yeah, he just jumped in, and I did hear about what's his name, Darby Allin's weird dive off the ladder, but yeah, and then that's when I joined was when what's his name, Joey Janela did the whole cannonball. Yeah.
So then he takes out Kazarian with a chair. And he prevented him, so he takes him out with a chair. Then Scorpio Sky ends up blasting Janela with a chair of his own. So Joey goes crazy. Before that, as we said, he did a bunch of what do you call it? A cannonball is what he calls that move. He did some sort of wacky dive. I forget who it was onto, but it was a big wacky dive off the top turnbuckle to the floor.
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember what he did there because
Oh, I remember he jumped
yeah,
off the top rope and then hit somebody on the way down. It was a wacky, crazy dive. Uh, but yeah, so it's like he's like a stunt man in his matches. He always takes like ridiculous like bumps that should really like take a guy out for like
cool.
6
Oh
months.
my goodness, yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna get hurt, man.
I mean, he's already fallen off of a roof, so I'm just thinking like how many like giant ass dives and falls can he take before he can't move.
I guess only time will tell. He's gotta cool it down though. I wouldn't want to see
He
him get
has
seriously
to.
hurt, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's pushing it sometimes, some of the stuff that he does. But anyway, Lucha Soros came out at number 8, and he took out Joey Janela, and then he took out Colt Cabana and Frankie Kazarian, all with pretty much relative ease. He then chokeslammed Kip Sabian over the top rope. Oh no, he powerbombed him. Actually, yeah, he lifted him up for a powerbomb, then basically threw him over the top rope to a bunch of people ready to catch poor Kip as he got flung through the air. And then this is where he hit a chokeslam. Then he caught Kazarian with a chokeslam and chokeslammed him on the ladder. Bad times for Mr. Frankie Kazarian. Then Darby ended up coming into the fray. He'd been out since the skateboard trick. And then he was somehow able to actually, off the top rope, catch Luchasaurus with a sunset flip powerbomb. They called it kind of what Code Red. It was kind of how it looked like. Yeah, he pulled that out on Luchasaurus. May I remind you, is a very, very big man. It's a large man, that Luchasaurus. So then he's struggling. He's still favoring his knee, but he's trying to set up a ladder. And then as Darby's setting this up, he watches as number 9 comes out, and it's Taz on the audio before the music hits, introducing Brian Cage, who is the final mystery competitor. He is former Impact World Champion, and Cage from that point on went on and pretty much killed everybody.
I popped really hard, Braden.
I bet.
I was like, hold on, he was just in like TNA like a couple like months ago or so, and then so it was crazy. I didn't expect him to be in there.
Well, they signed him, and then he got hurt. Or, like, he got hurt, and then he signed with them to come back to them when he got better. But, like, with the injury I thought he was going to be out for much longer. But here he is, and he's wrestling. So he comes out, and he destroys Darby Allin and Kip Sabian, and then he ends up, like, if you thought he destroyed them, Scorpio Sky took this, like, ridiculous German suplex from him. Looks like he almost died upon impact. He didn't, by the way, but it looked vicious. And then he ends up punishing Joey Janela with this superplex. And because he dropped Joey basically on Kazarian, who was still down. And then that's when Orange Cassidy decides to, I guess, try and fight off Brian Cage. That didn't work out too well for Freshly Squeezed, by the way. So then when he takes out Orange, everybody jumps Cage. Everybody left in the match who wasn't taken out. And they all beat him up, but this ends up, I think Cage ended up like popping out of everybody trying to beat him down, and he flung like a ladder in Kazarian's face. So as soon as Kazarian got up, he basically took something and got knocked right back down. But then they end up overwhelming him eventually, and they beat him down on the outside. They basically like quadruple team him. And then they start carrying everything to bury him with. They bury him with ladders. They take pieces of the guardrail, bury him with that. Then a bunch of guys, including Orange Cassidy, who actually showed some effort and some strength here. He took a lot of work to help carry that casino chip. That's very out of character for Orange to be lifting this heavy casino chip with a team of others. But him and a bunch of others end up carrying this giant Double or Nothing casino chip, and they drop that on Brian Cage. So he's buried and seemingly done, or so we thought. So then back inside the ring, Orange Cassidy and Kip Sabian battle atop of the ladder. And then Cassidy ends up sending Kip off of the ladder onto another. That looked like a bad bump, but it's been done so many times in ladder matches that I should just be like, yeah, it's just another spot. Which it really shouldn't be, but like these days it is. When a guy just falls off a ladder and bounces off to another ladder, like you would think that'd be like a career-ending move, but now it's just like a transitional spot. It's just modern wrestling, I suppose. So then,
It seems so, yeah.
So then Penelope Ford, Kip's girlfriend, ends up interfering, and she kind of comes out and distracts Orange Cassidy so that Jimmy Havoc can come from behind and basically pull Orange Cassidy off the ladder. Then Best Friends hit the ring, and I think Chuck Taylor might have just got cleaned up because he came out barefoot. She doesn't even have any boots on or anything. They come out and they attack Jimmy Havoc, and then all of a sudden Marco Stunt appears out of nowhere, and he joins Lucha Soros for... Actually, what he did is he got out a step ladder, and he stood on top of it, and him and Luchasaurus delivered a double chokeslam to Orange Cassidy. And actually, I think they chokeslammed him over the top rope and took out a bunch of people at ringside was the spot. And then Joey Janela ends up just going after Orange Cassidy, too, with a ladder. And he then delivered a Death Valley driver onto Orange Cassidy off of the apron onto the poker chip that buried Brian Cage. So keep in mind that Brian Cage is still underneath all of this debris, and wacky, crazy Joey Janela with Orange Cassidy, a full-grown man, delivers a Death Valley driver. So this is similar to the move that Velveteen Dream uses on NXT. He did this off of the ring apron onto a giant poker chip, which is like made of hard plastic. That couldn't have felt good for anybody involved. It couldn't have felt good. It was nuts. That was a crazy moment there. Then the Battle of SCU begins atop of the ladder until Luchasaurus basically dumps them off to the floor. And eventually Brian Cage goes like, what, Ultra Instinct? We can call it. He just like hulks up
he went Wolverine basically.
Yeah, he full on Wolverine. By that I mean super powered. He arose from his burial, if you will. He just got everything off of him. He stood up. And then him and Luchasaurus had like this crazy exchange of like stiff shots and kicks where they were literally just two big dudes bludgeoning each other for like 3 minutes straight. I absolutely love that. He ends up taking out Luchasaurus, and did he take out somebody else? I could have swore he gave like a big power bomb to...
He did like a weird drill claw onto someone. I forgot.
Yeah, it might have been Darby Allin who came back up. I think Darby Allin actually like recovered. I
remember he like laid Darby Allin on a ladder, and then
he did. Yes, he just kind of threw him, like ragdolled him to the outside.
And thank God that he hit the other ladder, because if you landed that ladder onto the ground, that would have been a very unpleasant landing.
It looked scary. He just flung him, dude. Like, with all his strength and might, just flung the poor little Darby Allin to the outside, and he literally crashed and burned. So then after that, Cage scaled up the ladder. They call it the drill claw, is what they call it. So, actually, he did, before that, the powerbomb was, in fact, to Luchasaurus, before Darby Allin ended up trying to give one last little string. So, he takes out Luchasaurus with the powerbomb. Darby Allin gives one last attempt at trying to fight off this monster. He gets destroyed and flung to the outside with the drill claw. And then Taz shows up and is yelling at Brian Cage to basically win, and he does, and he gets the world title opportunity. And I guess Taz is going to be his manager going forward. What role that's going to be, I have no idea. But I'm sure it might be like a human suplex machine type deal where, Brian Cage throws some pretty mean suplexes. That's something Taz was known for in his prime. So maybe that'll be it. Taz will probably be like a coach, similar to like how Jake Roberts is for Lance Archer, or like Arn Anderson for Cody. We'll see where it goes, but this is interesting. This match was all about putting Brian Cage over when he got in there. He got the last entrant. He killed everybody before getting buried, and then he rose from his burial, destroyed a giant Luchasaurus, and then basically murdered Darby Allin to win. So, like, this match was all about making him seem like a big deal, and I think it did that pretty darn good. That was the goal of the match, and I'd say they achieved it. They put him over huge.
Oh yeah, he's definitely someone to keep a lookout for.
So
he's magnificent.
So it was confirmed in the press conference after the show, but I thought they were going to save Cage and his world title shot in the future for the next pay-per-view, which would be probably in August, but it's happening before that. He's going to get his shot at the title at Fyter Fest. They're going to do another one of those, and they will announce the date of that particular show on Dynamite this Wednesday. So yes, for me, we do the old, we do the thumbs up and down rule. We can do double thumbs down, double thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, all that sort of stuff. For me, this gets a good 1 thumb up. I give it 1 solid thumb up. How about you, Gabe? And do you have any final analysis for this casino ladder match for the portions that you've seen?
I guess I could give it a thumb. I want to say half, but I feel like that's too generous because my only gripe is that not everyone got the spotlight. Even like example, Kazarian and Scorpio Sky were there after like 5 minutes. Like they weren't really seen on that much, so it wasn't really utilizing the whole set of 9 competitors because I think sometimes 6 people are too much for a ladder match, but 9 is a little too much. And this, I mean, the whole concept is interesting where it's a whole Royal Rumble ladder match type of mixture.
2-minute intervals.
But imagine, like, I don't know, the third entrant already just getting the poker chip. What then for those next competitors, you know? So it's, I mean, it's still new and fresh. But other than that, great high spots. I mean,
actually, you know, for
safe, right?
You know, for a ladder match, like it really had not as many high spots as you would expect, really.
Yeah.
But like as I said,
but for the high spots that did happen,
they were memorable. I do remember them all. So I guess the less is more, right? I think I always repeat that all the time. So yeah, they less is more.
Yeah. So the high spots, in my opinion, were when it happened, it worked. Nothing went too awry, thankfully. So yeah, I mean everything felt just professional, and it's just some people just didn't have to be there. Like, if there's so many team members that showed up or allies, like this is a 9 competitor match, and just more people kept coming in. Marco Stunt and what's his name, Jimmy Havoc, and other members of Best Friends. 9 is already too much too, so that's the only reason why I won't give it a 1.5. So I guess a 1.25 thumbs up.
Yeah, me, I give it a solid 1 thumb. Like it was a very good match. It just it never peaked and ended up being great, in my opinion. Like,
I mean, solid opener though.
Oh, solid opener for sure, definitely solid opener. But like it's not really like I've seen much better multi-man ladder matches.
Much more organized, too. So.
Oh, yeah, so that was that. And then we ended up getting MJF versus Jungle Boy, and boy, do I have a lot to say about this match. And all positive, by the way. So, MJF, who is still undefeated in AEW, takes on Jungle Boy, and these are 2 young wrestlers who are AEW exclusive talents, who AEW is clearly going to invest on in the future. And this was their opportunity to really take being on a pay-per-view and knock it out of the park and show the world what they can do, and I believe they did that. If there
did they have a program going on before this?
MJF has basically been bullying Marco Stunt of Jurassic Express, and Jungle Boy's basically like standing up for the little brother type deal is kind of what's been going on there. So, and they kind of like, it's only been built up in like the last 2-3 weeks maybe. Like it was kind of less built than some of the other matches on the card. But yeah, MJF started calling out Marco Stunt and kind of bullying him because he's small, you see. And Jungle Boy was kind of fighting for the honor of his Jurassic Express partner. So they did a bunch of like fantastic grappling within like the first, I would say, 5 to 10 minutes, just exchanging arm drags, exchanging holds. Very old school for 2 guys that are like early 20s that would have been born like in the mid 90s. Like they're younger than me, both of these guys. Okay, they're younger than me for crying out loud. I think Jungle Boy is 22 and MJF's like 23. So for them to be doing like that style of wrestling, like you would see from, I would say, like that's when like in the late 80s, early 90s, that more athletic style was starting to become a thing in America. A lot of guys were doing it then, and they were just doing that style. Tons of it was like if I had to like compare it to anything, it was like how Ricky Steamboat, his best matches were laid out, and doing like big arm drags and counters into holds and this, that, and the other. So eventually MJF starts getting overwhelmed because Jungle Boy's 100% out grappling him, and he fakes a knee injury. And as the referee's trying to keep Jungle Boy away and checking on him and all that, MJF leaps up and attacks the babyface from behind. And after this, he ends up taking out Jungle Boy's left arm, and he works it over because MJF's finish is called the Salt of the Earth, and it is basically a Fujiwara armbar submission. That's how he mainly gets his wins, is using that. Unless he's like getting a cheap win by either using a weapon or rolling somebody up on a fluke.
Does he not do the rope hung pile driver anymore?
Not much. I haven't really seen it in AEW. So
I mean, before AEW, I did see him in the Indies. I even like held his scarf for an indie show when I was doing ring crew. But I remember his finisher would be the rope hung pile driver. So I haven't seen it that much either.
Yeah, I haven't really seen it in AEW. You're wondering what?
I was just wondering if he still did it. So
I haven't seen it.
At all.
I have not seen it. But so Jungle Boy ends up being a courageous babyface, and he completely fights his way back into the match. And he starts making a comeback, and then MJF starts getting flustered again. Then they decide to have a chop contest. So they just start chopping each other, and each take it. They dare the other to chop them, they take it, and they deliver a more vicious chop to the other. And this went on for a bit. And so the action ends up spilling to the outside, and Jungle Boy is like firing like on a cylinder like Seth Rollins does. He just does a bunch of like topes outside and catches MJF with like 2 straight, and then he ends up taking a gigantic what do they call it, senton. He leaped over the top rope,
he did 2 suicide dives and then a tope con hilo.
Yeah, he did the 2 like suicide dives, and then he did the big jump over the top rope where he kind of lands on his back on MJF. So so he did that, and so they end up getting back in the ring, and MJF ended up chopping at Jungle Boy's injured arm, the arm he'd been working on for a while, and then he caught him in the throat with kind of like a strike. And then Jungle Boy ends up answering this by bouncing off the ropes and hitting a super kick, followed by everybody's favorite, what should I call it? Everybody's favorite transitional spot, the Destroyer. Petey Williams. Yeah. Petey Williams would be so disappointed.
Oh my god! I can like write an essay about how the Canadian Destroyer is such a like disgraceful move now, because it was such a great finisher. Now
yes, it's a transition spot that looks cool now. That's all it is. It never finishes matches. It's just to look cool in the middle of a match, and that's so sad. Because that flip pile driver used to be the most devastating move in all of wrestling.
It's kind of scary to take too. Like, you're gonna have to do a backflip and then land on your like shoulders if you think about it, if you're taking the damn move.
Yeah,
so
well,
it's also a scary move to take.
Thankfully everybody in wrestling these days happens to be super athletic, so they can do it, but like my god, it's just a move. It's like a suplex. Isn't that sad?
Yeah, exactly. It's really sad.
It's just every time I see it, I go, oh, I remember when this move used to matter, and it doesn't anymore, so that's sad. So, but anyway, Jungle Boy ends up, again, out-grappling MJF to the mat, and he gets him in a crossface, but he holds it for so long that his injured arm ends up giving out, and MJF is able to escape. They fight to the ring apron, and this was freaking scary, but I think MJF was fine. He sold it like death because really it looked like a deadly move. It always does, but it particularly looks devastating on a freaking ring apron. He took a reverse Rana on pretty much on the back of his head on, may I point out, the hardest part of the ring. What are we called on this podcast? We're called, we just got an apron bump. Bam! We got one on this pay-per-view. I'm pretty sure it was the only one. I might have to. I think it was the only one, but we did say we would bring it up on the next show we reviewed. This was in fact an apron bump, and I thought it was very effective. MJF sold this like he got a concussion.
As soon as he took it, he just did the comedic like stand up onto the like,
and then fall on his back. It was like Ric Flair selling. Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
And that just indicated like, oh, okay, he's fine, even though it looked like he died. Like,
yeah.
Oh
but his comical like heel selling was like, oh, okay, he's selling it like he would if he didn't get hurt. All right, we're good. The
impact of it just, oh my god,
it did look scary. I will say that, but I think everybody's
you're driving the back of your head onto the apron, and it's just it's just scary to take, and he's just fine with it on the apron too.
Yes.
Oh my god,
As it's a scary enough move to take in the middle of the ring, but like, or on the floor, but it's especially bad because the apron's kind of thin. Like there's not a lot of room for error in that little space. That's hard, like it's. But a lot of guys do stuff there now, and that's just how it is. So Jungle Boy ends up taking big time advantage of this, and he rolls a dazed MJF back into the ring. Of course, MJF grabs onto the referee, who ends up hitting the ropes as Jungle Boy tries to ascend onto the top rope, so it ends up crotching him on the top. So a sunset flip bomb from the top rope by a recovered Jungle Boy ends up getting hit, and they again trade some near falls, and MJF ends up elbowing the shoulder of his opponent, looking for, again, his submission maneuver. He tries to get MJF into the salt of the earth, and then they end up trading a series of cradles and roll-ups, and then MJF is able to snag just the luckiest little clutch of a small package to win in the end and scrape out a win. It's still kind of clean, but it's still like I don't know. It's an interesting finish. Like, I don't think he used the tights. He just kind of got him in a small package and pinned him. What's
funny is in those series of pins, he did use tights at first, and then Jungle Boy used tights, but in the end he what's his name, MJF, just got that small package.
Yeah, so I suppose like the match ended in the same way it began, except on the opposite. So Jungle Boy won the exchange of grappling at the beginning of the match, but when they went back to it again, MJF ended up winning when it mattered. So I thought this was absolutely fantastic. Everything about this match I love. This is the type of wrestling. This is the wrestling style match I love to watch. It was so old school. And what was more shocking about it to me was the fact that how young these guys are to work that particular style, where it wasn't super. The only real modern thing about it was the Destroyer, and you heard me bitch about that. I complained about it already. But other than that, there wasn't any. And I guess the reverse Rana. The reverse Rana was a little extreme too. But aside from those two moves, this was a very basic old school wrestling match in every sense of the term. The heel worked over, took the advantage, worked over the arm, beat it up, and tried to get his submission. Couldn't get it. The resilient babyface fought back, got a couple comebacks, kept winning on the grappling exchanges, and then in the end, when they went back to the grappling, the heel got lucky and ended up snagging a pin. I love this match. If there was a crowd for this match, I think everybody would be talking about how fantastic it was.
That was my only issue with it. I mean, I know I told you at first oh man, they're targeting the arm and all, but I look back wait, this is a really good match. But if there was a crowd, I bet I would have liked it even more.
Oh, dude,
because the whole crowd would have been invested from point A to point B of this entire match.
Definitely, they'd pop for Jungle Boy's comeback. They would have booed everything MJF would have done. The reaction for the dives into the top rope helo, the reaction to the reverse Rana and the sunset flip power bomb,
I know there's the crowd right now, but it's it doesn't feel like a sincere crowd. I feel like they're still in character, and I get that because they're still on camera. But yeah, them having a crowd just doesn't really sit right, but it's better than nothing, so.
Yeah, to me, it's still that's just plants, right? That's not a real audience.
I just think it's background noise, it's a helicopter flying over my house, in my opinion.
Yeah, so it's not a real crowd, and in front of a real crowd, this match would be even more gloriously talked about. I still thought it was fantastic. I thought, for the longest time, for the rest of the show, this was my match of the night, and then we'll get to what maybe outseeded it at the end. But as far as a traditional wrestling match between the ropes, this even blew away Seth and Drew from Money in the Bank. I think this blew away Rhea and Charlotte from WrestleMania. This, to me, was awesome and really should be. It's unfortunate that it might not be, but this should really be considered a career-defining performance for both MJF and Jungle Boy to pretty much steal the show on a national pay-per-view event.
Yeah, I think this is I think this might be the post-pandemic wrestling match to follow.
Yes, like an actual wrestling match, like stuff that's edited and put together, like cinematic, or like these movie matches that they've been doing. Those are a different thing, right? They can't really be graded on the same thing as a traditional match that takes place in the ropes. We're not going to rate the Boneyard match like we would Rhea and Charlotte, for example, right? So, like, when we get to the main event, we can't really consider it like the matches that took place before it because it was done in a way different way that wrestling usually isn't for, it's just different, right? So I think this was a superbly wrestled match. Every spot literally meant something. I've never seen psychology so good with two guys that are so young. If anything, this match just proved that this company's got a future with its talent. They've got a ton of just aspiring talent that's just waiting to blossom and bloom. And these guys are on the way. And I hope that this becomes like a long-term feud. Like, we've seen Steve Austin and The Rock go back at it. We've seen Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat go back at it. Well, who is another? We've seen Cena and Punk go back at it. What are some, this could be, like, just the chemistry on display here needs to be redone in the future and be redone when they have an audience again. I think this could be the beginning of a long special rivalry between MJF and Jungle Boy in the ring.
This is giving me, like, a bit of a bait versus Pete Dunne feel for the UK title.
Oh yeah, where they just work like pros and you're like, blown away by how young they are.
Yeah. No story at all. They're so young and they just work like pros, like they've been in the business for years or like decades. I mean, so
yeah, it's crazy.
So that's what I felt like looking back at the Jungle Boy MJF match. Just shades of Dunne and bait.
Yeah, it was pretty much it, and right second wasn't it was early on the card for that show too that Dunne and Bate had that match.
Yes, yeah, right after the I forgot what match, but it was pretty early on.
Yeah, it was like second match of the card, just like this one, and yeah. So for me, an automatic 2 thumbs up, 2 glowing thumbs up for this match easily.
2 thumbs. If I had a third,
you'd give it. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So that was fantastic stuff. So then we move on to the finals for the TNT Championship. Cody against Lance Archer. This has been built up for weeks. We knew this is where, when the tournament was announced and the bracket was announced, we knew going in that this would be the final. There's nothing wrong with that. Predictability isn't always bad in wrestling. It was building to this big match between Cody and Archer. So Mike Tyson comes out with the TNT title, and I know on commentary as the match.
I'm sorry.
I know it's so bad, but so on commentary they reassured us that gold's hard to really be making stuff with right now, but there will be eventually gold plates put on this belt. That's my least of my worries. I didn't care so much about the silver plates. It's that fucking red strap. That's what made it look toy-like and ugly and very, I don't want to say very WWE, but that's a very WWE looking fucking belt. In the worst way. Like when WWE designs stupid fucking belts to sell for toys. I'm sorry. That's it.
I think it's worse than that.
You really think it's worse than that, eh? So you think it's worse than the 24/7 belt? Because that's what it seems like to me.
Okay, well, the 24/7 belt, it's the whole gimmick of that is supposed to be like, oh, it's a comedic, belt because it doesn't have that much pristine and gloss that let's say the World Championship or even the tag team belt.
Although they fucking for no reason redesigned the Intercontinental title and it looks more hideous now than the fucking white style.
It does, but it does have some like glitz and design on it. So I'll give it that. But this belt, it looks like, I think I told you this like over text, that it looks like a regular belt you could buy at like
at an indie event. Yeah.
Yeah. Or here's another one though. Like I remember I went to like Party City or like a Halloween store. You could buy like championship belts there, like gimmick championship belts with no like promotion on them. That's what it looks like if you take out the TNT letters on it, because it's horrible, and it kind of looks like the weird classic Big Eagle WWE belt if you see like the little sides of the main plate, but it still looks horrible, like the size of it, the
circular front doesn't like just,
and the silver and red it never sat right with me with the Raw tag belts, so I don't think that.
Well, again, allegedly they're going to be replaced with gold in the future, but still.
Oh yeah, that's understandable. It's just I hope they replace that red strap.
They're not, or I hope so too, but I don't know. Are we the only ones who've really bitched about it, or has there been big complaints about it?
I checked Twitter as soon as like that belt was revealed, and then even the next day, everyone's just talking. No one's agreeing with how this belt looks, and even commentary ditched like its design before it was revealed. So it's everyone knows that this belt is to not be loved. It's
So
it's just a placeholder, and I feel like they should have just like had a placeholder in my opinion, just a different name, just no belt, just a name if they were gonna go this far, or a trophy. I don't know, just not this belt. 'Cause
they want Cody to carry something for a few weeks. They want him to show a championship on television, right? So it's like,
yeah,
whatever.
a championship that looks like I don't know, a Walmart Raw tag belt. Sure, I guess so. If Cody can make it look good, why not, right?
He'll try and make it look good, but I don't think so. So like that already kind of took me out of this thing. So they end up, they both kind of stare down. The referee tells them to shake hands, and I can't remember if they did or not. But the referee's like, "Oh, you shake hands." We were bitching about the fucking belt design. I just remember the ref going, "Oh, shake hands."
Oh my god. If they don't know that red doesn't look good on the Universal title, what gave them this damn idea that it'll look good on their TNT belt? That's all I gotta say. That's it. I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah. So, like, before the match, Lance beats up, like, an AEW crew member. He keeps doing this every week where he tosses them at a gorilla, and then he beats the shit out of them in the ring and throws them out of the ring. So he did that, I guess, to put over how, like, mean and tough he is. So in the beginning, Archer completely dominates Cody, and he targets.
He started with a finisher, I think.
Oh, did he actually do that?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, he did, because he gave. Was it that big, like, I shouldn't call it a razor's edge type move, but like
he did like a crucifix driver.
And he did that. He did it to Cody on the floor, by the way.
It's like a one-wing angel, but like as a crucifix.
So he did that to Cody, then he ends up dominating him afterwards, because Cody just took a fucking finish to the outside, so of course he's going to be hurt. In the context of the match, I mean. It probably did hurt to take, too. But, so Cody ends up, I guess he threw Archer into the ring post. Oh, no, it's Archer threw Cody into the post and kept damaging Cody over time, and... So Cody ends up getting the upper hand very, very briefly on the outside, but then Archer's able to haunt it. Stop it, I should say. Halt it. Haunt it. Jesus Christ, I can't speak tonight. He halted Cody's onslaught, and this time he actually threw him over the turnbuckle and into the stands. So he basically went past the guardrails. So... he started overwhelming Cody big time, and he punished him with a barrage of shots and, rights and lefts. And then I guess the cameraman got a little too close and ended up getting hit with a shot from Archer himself, and he got knocked down. So again, he sends Cody into the guardrail. Cody tried to fire up, but Archer just snuffed it out again. They go back in the ring. Cody applies a crossface using Archer's hair, so that's how he was pulling back on him, and he had his like arm around Archer's face. Archer got to the ropes, forced to break. Jake Roberts then did a bit of a distraction, but it was ineffective as Cody was able to catch Archer with a DDT in front of Jake to kind of like send a message, but it didn't really send that great of a message because a DDT, much like the Destroyer, is just a transition spot, so Archer was very easily able to kick out of that move. So Archer ends up delivering a huge spine buster in return, because of course Arn Anderson is also at ringside. That was a shot to him. Cody was able to bounce back and deliver his big springboard cutter that he does off the top rope. Infinitely better than John Cena's springboard stunner from 5 years ago, I think. So Archer then kicked out at 1. What have we talked about? Those surprising kickouts at 1 that have been happening. There was another one that happened on the show too that we'll get to. And this forced Cody to pull out all of Dusty's trademark offense with the flip, flop, and fly into the bionic elbow. And then he actually pulled out the final reckoning, which is a move made famous by his elder brother Dustin. And then he hit Crossroads on Archer, but again, Archer was able to kick out. And then Cody did a call to Sting. He did the big woo call out with his hands and did the Stinger splash. And then Archer ended up following up, and he practically no-sold it and gave Cody a chokeslam. And then later on, Arn Anderson was able to get involved as I guess the referee was distracted with Jake, and I think he ended up he knocked Archer off the top rope. There were a few times where Archer went for Undertaker's It looked like old school to me.
School.
Twice.
Yeah, he did some weird tightrope stuff. I don't know. I feel like it's not very monster-like to do. But
well, Undertaker does it.
Oh yeah, it's Undertaker. It's old school. But I mean, for a big monster heel, you're gonna beat the crap out of like some jobber at every entrance. You're gonna do your tightrope like I don't know, balance stick on your opponent. I don't know.
So he ended up trying to go. Yeah, he ended up trying to go for this for Cody for like the second or third time, and basically Arn knocked him off, and Jake another referee from nowhere came out and actually ratted out Arn to the ref who was actually.
That was really interesting. Yeah. I've never seen that in wrestling in a while or at all.
So this douchebag snitch referee is like, Arn's a big cheater, and the ref throws him out, and then for whatever reason Jake just got thrown out. So I guess the referee is like, well, I'm getting rid of one coach, I'm getting rid of the other two.
Well, yeah, what was the point of that? Like,
especially because Jake didn't listen. He came out 2 seconds later with the snake again.
Yeah, oh my god.
But I mean, he only came out with the snake so that Mike Tyson could take his shirt off and show how great a shape he's in for almost being 60.
Oh yeah, he's still in shape. Holy crap.
So
that worked on me.
So that's really the only reason Jake came back out, was so he could be threatened by a very impressive looking Mike Tyson. But back inside, Cody is able to not suffer the blackout, which is Archer's finish. He made sure not to get caught with that, and he countered into a bunch of consecutive crossroads, and he got the win. And I said for sure that he would end up being the first ever TNT champions, or TNT champion on the prediction. Because why wouldn't you put the belt on Cody? Archer's a new acquisition. He's being established, but he isn't the star the magnitude of Cody Rhodes. So that belt means more being on Cody than it does Lance Archer. Right? That's what I think. So to me, this match kind of went a little long. It wasn't anything bad. It was fine for what it was, but like it definitely wasn't of the quality of the two matches that were previous to this, in my opinion.
I think there was too many shenanigans.
Yeah, there was definitely overbooked to a degree.
That a final tournament match should have. You're gonna end it off on just so many weird mishaps. Okay, there's gonna be a referee is gonna snitch, and then there's gonna be trainers doing their stuff, and then there's Mike Tyson. Why is he here?
But to mention, the few camera shots to him with his reaction to the match actually made this match a little more entertaining.
Oh man,
his facial expressions.
He yawned for one shot, and I was laughing. I texted you guys as soon as I saw that shot. I'm like, wow, Mike Tyson is actually feeling how I'm feeling right now to this match.
Yeah, which to me, I can't say it wasn't bad. Like there was nothing bad about this match.
Bad, but it's supposed to be the finals for a tournament for the brand new, prestigious, beautiful looking TNT Championship. Well,
to be fair, this kind of match was slightly doomed the second I seen that belt. So you know what?
I was about to ask you, do you think the design ruined the potential of the match or our viewership?
No, because if they were gonna steal the show, they would have done it regardless, despite how shitty that belt looked. To me, it was
at the SummerSlam match with Finn Balor, and
that was still better than this. I thought Balor's match.
But the crowd was they kept chanting about how bad.
I think that was a benefit to these guys, because the crowd would have booed that fucking belt if they were there, dude. They would have booed that fucking belt something fierce. So these guys are lucky there was no crowd there to boo that fucking belt and shit on their match. But it was a fine affair. It thumbs in the middle. Nothing real special, but nothing too bad. Just a mid-card match where Cody got a big win, and at least it had the right result. That's all I can really say about it, right?
Yeah, thumb in the middle for me too.
Cody showed great intensity, and he's a great babyface, and Archer played his bully role well as the heel, and maybe this feud will continue, and maybe they'll have a better match down the line. But I
was about to ask, what's next for Archer after this? What do you think?
I don't know. Maybe he just keeps feuding with. I don't know. Maybe he keeps feuding with Cody, or he just gets rehabbed in the mid card like somebody else who we'll talk about.
Ooh,
coming up. Yeah. Okay. So.
No.
But yeah, so that'll be something going forward. Next, we had Chris Statlander versus Penelope Ford. And, this match was originally supposed to be Britt Baker against Chris Statlander. However, Britt Baker suffered a unfortunate injury on Dynamite this week. And the word going into Wednesday's Dynamite, Brandon posted this in our chat to let us know before we started this recording. But it's She's supposed to be out 6 to 8 weeks. So
What's her injury again?
it's like a slight torn PCL and a partial break of the kneecap and
Wow.
a slight tear of the meniscus. It's like 3 different injuries to the knee.
Another like Seth Rollins predicament, I'm guessing.
Yeah, but like she's still not going to miss as much time. 6 to 8 weeks ain't 6 to 8 months.
Oh
So,
yeah.
But I mean, that's just
good.
early word. It could even be worse, and it could be revealed as something completely different on Wednesday. But Brandon said like the word right now is that she's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks, which is pretty much like that's about 2 months of action she's going to miss. It's a lot better than fucking missing 9 months. I'll tell you that much. So if that is the case, she's really lucky because injuring your knee usually sets you back for a really long time. Look at Tommaso Ciampa at the DIY split after they lost to Authors of Pain. I think it was a knee injury, right, that he suffered?
It was a knee injury because I think there was a live event that he suffered it, and then he still went on.
Yeah, and made it worse.
He made it very well. He still carried the show on, which is admirable and all.
But he hurt his knee worse, and the recovery was a lot longer because of that ladder match. He made it worse competing in that, without question. Like him and Johnny did this ridiculous like dual dive off of like ladders onto AOP, and he landed on his knee from a ladder a number of times, and I think he was out.
You're gonna be bumping on your knees a lot.
Yeah, yeah, to catch yourself, to brace yourself and land properly.
Because the knees are like one of the strongest parts to brace its impact, so it's just sucky to have an injury there.
So, and I swear he was out for like 9 months when Seth blew it.
It was so long.
Yeah,
it was so long.
Yeah, so if Seth blew out his knee, he was out for like 9 months. So if she's only missing 2 to 3, well, she got lucky, as far as I'm concerned, So this match...
Was she feuding with Chris Statlander?
She was just on TV, cutting promos and building her character up. So they didn't really have much of a feud per se, but Statlander is in the top 3 for the women, and I think it was designed that they could have a match and Britt would get a win on pay-per-view, because they've been using her as a consistent character on television. So while there wasn't much of a feud, Chris Statlander is higher in the rankings in AEW storylines, so therefore Britt beating her on pay-per-view would be a big win for Britt, I think was the idea here. But she got hurt and didn't get to compete. So Statlander early on works over Penelope with a bunch of strikes, a bunch of kicks, and then Kip Sabian actually came out with Penelope, and he was on crutches and looked like a fake cast, and he looked all banged up, and I don't remember him taking any near as bad spots as say fucking Darby Allin did. I don't think he was on crutches I don't think he was on crutches backstage, but he's not a heel, so of course Kip's hamming up the fact that he was in a ladder match.
That was in a kind of a sour taste, to be honest, to have all those crutches and all that. So
I don't know. It just makes him a chicken shit heel who relies on his girlfriend. Now he's on crutches and being a prick. Heel work, my friends. It didn't bother me too much. And I mean, he was there to basically take a Statlander dive as she kind of did a tope to both of them to the outside. Back inside, they wrestle some more. Ford ends up taking over and ends up actually delivering a really beautiful Hurricane Rana from the top rope. I give her credit for that because it actually looked really good. Looked more smooth than anything Private Party did on the buy-in. And then she looked to go for a cutter, but Statlander ended up catching her and delivered a pretty nice vertical suplex. And then the Big Bang, what was it called? The Big Bang Theory. What's the name of her finish?
This is my first Chris Statlander match, so I was gonna tell you my whole spiel, but yeah, I don't.
Well, we'll go into the spiel, but she hit her finish on Penelope and got a win. Actually, they're both pretty green, but they're both like have gymnast backgrounds, so they could do a lot of athletic stuff. And there was nothing that got fucked up in this match. Like nothing looked bad. Nothing looked like awkward or mistimed. Like it was good. But that's all you can say about it is it was good.
In my opinion, like
but it's still thumbs in the middle. I'll give that fucking grade right now. It was very much thumbs in the middle.
Thumbs in the middle
because of what?
Because of Chris.
Oh, yeah. But I thought Penelope kind of did pretty good for being a last-minute replacement. She kind of did her stuff fine. Too, yeah. I think they both did all right.
I think Chris, she hits harder than a lot of women I see.
And she's pretty. She's got a pretty fair size, too. She's a pretty big girl.
She's a big girl, yeah. She can really take it to girls, and but I don't like her gimmick, like a weird alien,
yeah, we can talk about that. So, and I have to mention that on commentary, I think it was Shivani is like, so I asked her if she likes Star Wars or Star Trek, and she told me no. You think somebody who's an alien would like that kind of stuff, but not her. She says she's into different types of space, or like real space. I'm like, yeah, like the fucking Andromeda Galaxy or whatever the fuck she's from. I don't know. That's just a little too hammy. It's a little too goofy.
This feels like 80s WWF, in my opinion.
No, even worse than that, dude. Like, this is like the worst of the indies right here.
Really?
I think so. This is like bad Chikara level shit. Okay, like with fucking mascots wrestling each other. Okay, like that's the vibes I get from this. Like the boops and the deathly point of the finger. Like, what's this? The finger poke of doom. Like, I don't know. I mean, she is a great athlete. She's got a future.
That's what's catching my eye right now. Like,
she's got good offense. Her kicks fucking sounded like they sucked. They connected.
Stiff as hell.
They were stiff as hell. It looked fine. Both women did fine, but the gimmick is just it's just not my cup of tea, dude. I won't lie. I find it too hokey.
I'm just wondering, did that work in the indies? Because I did hear about her when a friend of mine, his wife, had the biggest match of a lifetime against Chris Statlander, and I'm like, who's Chris Statlander? Oh, an alien gimmick? Did it work in other promotions? It's not working for me, so I'm just wondering if it's gonna go far for her. Like, what?
It probably won't. She's probably gonna have to ditch it and just be herself.
I think she should. I don't know. I'm not buying it. She's touching everyone's noses. Like,
yeah, the boop. Yeah, for fuck's sake. It's too much, and I think it needs to be dropped. But you know what? They're going to try it. I mean, they're still continuing with the Dark Order. We'll get to them. And so, yeah. So that's very much thumbs in the middle, but it was fine. Nobody messed anything up. And we're getting to something next that was far worse than this. So we'll go on to that. Because next was Dustin Rhodes versus Shawn Spears. And
I've never felt more uncomfortable of an AEW match than this.
This was all sorts of bad. So, a suit-clad Shawn Spears, looking pretty good, like he was the miscast member of Evolution, standing there in the ring. He's confident that Dustin Rhodes is retired for good, and he will not be appearing for his scheduled match. But since it is a scheduled match and was supposed to happen, he demands that the referee call for the bell. But before this, he did the old heel shtick where they talk shit about the babyface. They have their music play, but it was the heel who orchestrated it. So when the fucking music stops, they gloat about how, oh, y'all bought it. You know, he did that whole thing. And then as he asks the referee to ring the bell and count Dustin out, Dustin's music hits again. And Shawn goes, hey, I only told you idiots to cue that one time. Why are you playing it again? But then he sees Brandy come out. And they have a bit of a standoff. And then, of course, it poses just perfectly where you can see Dustin Rhodes appear from behind him, like out of frame, but he just kind of appears behind Shawn Spears. And then Spears turns around and Dustin just pummels him. But then Dustin, keeping up with this perv thing that he's been doing on pay-per-view, he kissed frickin' Jake Hager's wife at Revolution, and now he stripped a man. Yeah, dude. She was yelling at Dustin through most of the match with Jake Hager, and then he just kind of, I think she like tried to hold him in place so that Jake could hit him, and then he ended up escaping and fighting off Jake, and then he just planted a wet one on Jake Hager's wife, and the crowd cheered. It's like, I'm pretty sure that's like assault.
It's definitely sexual assault.
Yeah. So, but
wrestling, whoa.
Yeah, wrestling it's fine. But now he takes out Shawn Spears and he starts ripping and tearing off his suit and exposing him. And he fucking either accidentally pulled too hard on the underpants or did it on purpose, and it exposed fucking Shawn Spears' ass to the pay-per-view audience. And
how long has he done this like weird CNN gimmick?
Yeah, it's like since quarantine, since like March. Yeah,
that's kind of sad.
Yeah,
I'm not liking it.
Yeah, it is what it is. And then so he starts acting like a goofus, and he's having his ass showing, and he looks like a fucking geek. And then of course he ends up pulling his underwear back up so it can cover his ass fully. But then the camera takes a close shot of his manager Tully Blanchard's face on the fucking crotch of his underwear, like right in the fucking penis spot, and they zoom in on it, and then it fucking Shawn Spears gives off the goofiest like dork face ever, as if he's just been shown that he's got his mentor's fucking face on his penis area of his underwear. And then he gets in the ring. Dustin hits his finish, and it's over. This fucking thumbs down. Big time thumbs down.
It sounds like an Attitude Era angle just for laughs.
It did nothing but like make Shawn Spears look like a goofball, though.
Props to WWE for not making Ty Dillinger look like a goof. Like a whole loser is what Shawn Spears.
I don't remember the Perfect 10 ever like having his ass exposed on takeovers. I don't remember him ever having like a fucking person's face on his dick that he's like embarrassed about having there. But so why'd you put it there? Well, I guess he never expected to get fucking scatted down by Dustin. I don't think anybody expects that going into a match.
He always had Tully Blanchard in his like underpants and everything.
I guess it's always been there. It just finally Dustin exposed it to his dismay. But yeah, this was I figured Dustin was going to win. It was going to give him a rebound after Lance Archer basically made him his bitch in the weeks leading up to the show. But like, I mean, Shawn Spears fucking I don't even want to say buried. But, like, he looked like a goober, dude. Like, a complete fucking comedy goofball.
Did Dustin need this, like, comedic win? Like,
well, it doesn't really help much because it was a comedic win, right? Like, it's a win on pay-per-view, but, like... But it's like...
Dustin already has all these, like, accolades and, like, even comedic wins already under his belt. So, what did this do for Dustin? And especially, what did this do for Shawn Spears?
So yeah, this was nothing than stupid comedy and a heel getting his comeuppance for an angle they started on Wednesday. So like, where was the investment?
You know how excited I was for him to feud with Cody, Shawn Spears? Like, I thought that was awesome with the whole chair shit because he accidentally bled Cody's head wide open, and then
that got dropped quick, eh?
He's still considered the chairman somehow, so. What's he gonna be known as? Like what, Tully Dick or something?
Yeah, fucking Pants McGants. I don't know. Like,
I don't know. This is horrible.
This is bad. He's gonna need some big time rehabbing. People are not gonna take him seriously for a long time after this shit. So big time thumbs down. Big time thumbs down for that shit. So then we can only go up from here, right, everybody? So. After that, we had the no disqualification, no countout match for the AEW Women's title. Nyla Rose defending against Hikaru Shida. Shida, for months leading up to this match, has been winning on television. She suffered one loss in 2020. She's been winning constantly. She went into this match 9-1 for her 2020 record. She's only lost one time. And I think that was when she got pinned in a tag match or a multi-woman match. So it wasn't even one-on-one, and straight up one-on-one, she's won. Every other match other than that, she's won. I think she's lost one tag match on television in 2020. Nyla has been booked strong, but she kind of disappeared for a while, I think for like quarantine reasons, so she wasn't on television a whole lot, but then she came back and she got a few wins, and before the fucking quarantine struck, she was getting booked very strongly. So going into this match, I had no idea who was going to win. I thought maybe like Nyla would retain because it seems kind of early to take the belt off her, but you've given Shida so much momentum that like she should probably win the belt with how strong you've been pushing her to this title match. So it was pretty intriguing for me on that part. So Shida actually comes out with a kendo stick, and Nyla is able to take it from her, and I think like she kind of beat down Shida with it, but Shida was able to take it away from her and throw it away. And then Shida ends up fighting back, and she took, I guess, grounded Nyla, and so this took away a bit of Nyla's strength and size advantage because she was basically being grounded with Shida's strong suplexes and all of her great wrestling offense. But this little run by Shida was short-lived, as the champion was able to just take her out at ringside, and she sent her crashing through like this poker table that was set up like outside the barricade. Just threw this poor woman into this table. Shida ended up fighting back with some great striking. Her offense looks great, but then she was overpowered and dropped with a suplex. This is after they got back inside the ring. A clothesline then sends her back down to the floor. And it was at this point that Shida was able to stun Nyla with a crossbody. And then she got up and did like a running knee to the back of Nyla's head. And they go up to the stands, and Shida sends Nyla crashing into the giant poker chips with a massive hip toss. It was like this kind of like the setup for the stage where they were, and Nyla took this big giant hip toss into basically the props that were set up on the Double or Nothing stage. Cheeta then pulls out another kendo stick and starts just waffling Nyla Rose with it, and basically said to the extent, "I found my kendo stick, bitch," in response to what Nyla had done the previous week on Dynamite by beating her down with one. So they get back inside the ring, and big brainbuster on the kendo stick, and this is Cheeta, by the way, gave a big brainbuster to Nyla on the kendo stick and delivered a running knee right afterwards. Nyla was able to kick out. Nyla recovers and then drapes Cheeta over the top rope and begins to climb to the top herself, where she delivers that big knee to the back of the head that she's done in pretty much all of her matches. That gets a near fall. Cheeta just barely able to get her shoulder up. The champion then teased sending Cheeta through a table, but so Nyla had set up a table in one of the corners of the ring and was gonna like throw Cheeta through it, but Cheeta was able to fight out of this. She did not, however, fight out of a powerbomb, because Nyla was able to lift poor Cheeta up and powerbomb her through said table in the corner, but Cheeta was still able to kick out at 2. So a Death Valley driver was delivered and by Nyla, and she was able to climb to the top rope. Cheeta recovered from the Death Valley driver and threw a kendo stick at her, and she met the champion at the top rope, and with all the strength and might you could believe, delivered a avalanche falcon arrow from the top rope. The strength of this woman, like, that was nuts. And that still wasn't enough to keep Nyla down. She kicked out. So Cheeta, went back to the well and used her running knee to try and keep Nyla down, and it didn't keep her down. So she delivered another kendo stick shot to the head of Nyla Rose and did one more running knee to pin Nyla Rose and win the AEW Women's title. This was very good. This was a very good match. And I think that the stipulation really helped, that they could brawl, they could fight around the arena. This stipulation was absolutely the key to this match's success. It kind of like, there's a lot more tools for Nyla to use, because she is a bit green, especially in comparison to Hikaru Cheeta. And it was able to let Cheeta use tools to kind of help with the size disadvantage. She was able to use the tools in the match to keep Nyla at bay, but then she also relied on her legitimate striking and her really great looking offense and mixes with it. That they brawled great. The spots were well placed. I thought this was a very, very, very good women's title match on pay-per-view. I thought it was very good. What are your thoughts, Gabe?
It got me more invested than the Chris Statlander match, so I'll give it a thumbs up too.
Yeah, so, would you say, it was definitely, it was a million times better. It was a lot better than the Chris Statlander match, but of course. But there was a title on the line and a big stipulation, pretty much a no-holds-barred stipulation to the match.
Yeah, this held more, promise than the TNT showdown, in my opinion. It delivered. This felt
dude,
like the championship match than the TNT title.
This was a far better title match than the TNT title match. You know what? Now that I look back on it, the TNT title match was the weakest championship match of the show.
I think it was. I mean, excluding the Shawn Spears,
well, that wasn't a title match. I'm talking straight.
Well, for me, I think that match was just the weakest in my opinion.
It was.
Other contenders.
It was. It's the only one I gave a full-on thumbs down to for the show. So then we go to one of our 2 main events for the evening. I love when pay-per-views do that. To me, the main event's the last match. This is the penultimate. Come on now. Oh, we got more than one main event. It's the main event's the last match. Everybody knows that. Nobody wants to say it, but everybody knows it. So for once, Moxley doesn't actually main event an AEW show. He defended the world title against Brody Lee, Mr. Brody Lee, in the penultimate match, and both men make their way to the ring. Brody and the Dark Order still in possession of the AEW title. A few weeks ago, the faction had destroyed Jon Moxley, and Mr. Brody Lee basically took the title from him. And in the weeks since then, so it's been about 2 weeks, there are about 2 episodes of Dynamite that happened after it. And during Brody's matches, he would have the ring announcer rename him the self-proclaimed AEW World Champion, Mr. Brody Lee, or the true AEW World Champion Brody Lee. Because what they would do is they would just announce his name. But he's like, I got this belt. You got to say the belt with my name. And he'd get them to announce them again. And he did that here at the beginning of the entrances. So the opening bell goes, and Moxley just goes nuts and starts going after Brody something fierce. They fight to the outside, and Brody ends up hitting a suplex on the floor. He followed moments later with a tope of his own, because, I shouldn't call him Harper. It's Brody Lee. He's been in WWE for so long that I still think of him as Luke Harper with the Wyatt family. I shouldn't, because he's done much better stuff outside of that. But he does have a wicked tope, and he's huge. So it's like the amount of control he has on that thing is nuts. So then inside into the guardrail, Brody Lee was able to deliver a sick-looking pump handle suplex onto a guardrail he laid out at ringside. They get back into the ring, and Mox sucks it up and delivers a suplex of his own. He then just, fucking grabs Brody Lee and delivers a full-on pile driver on him. Just like there was no...
Did a pile driver.
Yeah, just out of...
It was great.
It was great, because it came out of nowhere, and that was a near fall, hard too.
I think he got that from Suzuki, since that's his finish, and he had a great rivalry in New Japan with Suzuki.
That just happened, not too long ago. That was, last year?
It was awesome.
It was awesome. It was awesome. So... Moxley then moved the ring steps into position, but then he ends up eating a nasty drop kick to his midsection. He's able to recover, though, and he back body drops Lee through the timekeeper's table at ringside. Brody then delivered another release suplex, this time it being onto a set piece on the floor, so another thing from the stage, a double or nothing set piece. So Moxley sells this big time. He's hurt. He's struggling to get back into the ring. And when he gets back into the ring, Brody just delivers a massive boot to his face. And then the fight ends up spilling to the stage. Moxley then sets up for the paradigm shift on those same steel steps that he had set up earlier. And he ends up getting it, and they crash through the ramp. They break through it. Now, clearly rigged, but the spot looked awesome. And they crash through the ramp. You don't know the condition of both men. A bunch of medical personnel come out. They check on both guys. Moxley's the first to drag his half-dead body back into the ring. Brody Lee then rises up like a monster who won't give up. His face totally bloodied. He clearly bladed while he was under there, I think.
It looks like
it looked like a blade job to me, but it was effective.
I mean, where would you bust your head,
Yeah, it was effective, though. He came out bloodied. It looked like he had just, his head went through the fucking stage, because practically dead. And then the champion, as Brody Lee gets in the ring, is able to hit the paradigm shift again. But guess what? Brody Lee kicks out at 1. He kicked out at 1 of the top champion's finish. So what does Mox do? He goes for it again. But now Brody kicks out at 2.1. So barely a 2 count. So Mox pretty much just says, fuck it. And he catches Brody off guard, and he puts him in a rear naked choke with a leg lock and the arm in a vice. And this is Brody has no answer for this, and he struggles and struggles and struggles. And then he passes out. So he didn't tap, nor did he get pinned, but it's still a submission win for Moxley. And Moxley pulling a fucking MMA-style submission out of his ass won against this monster to retain the AEW World title in a very, very good World title match. I love this match. I thought it was very good.
This match gave off a high-caliber match, even though it
was a big fight feel.
It gave me that big feel. Compared to the other matches, I actually felt something when the bell rang. I just couldn't describe it. I think it's because they both worked under the glitz and glamour of WWE. So I think that's what really gave this match its big fight feel. Even though I haven't been keeping up with their program, it still felt like, wow, this is something I gotta glue my eyes to. And this match did deliver.
It delivered in spades. I knew it would. These guys have chemistry dating back to their WWE days when the Wyatt family feuded with the Shield, and they even had their own individual feud when they both kind of left the Intercontinental title picture about 5 years ago. They kind of had a little program of their own. And they're both great at brawling. They're both amazing brawlers and know how to work that, I don't want to, should I say Mick Foley style Terry Funk style match. That's what these two remind me of.
Yeah, it's when just brawling.
Yeah. But like it's effective brawling that has a great story being told, and the offense looks amazing and intense. And they're just two hosses that just wouldn't give up and just beating each other up, and I loved it. And again, it's one of those things where like with a crowd, this would have been like so amazing. The lariat that Brody Lee did, and Moxley sells that like $1 million, and the way he sold the paradigm shift when he got hit, and when they crashed through the ramp, that would have got a huge ooh and ah, and just like it's just so unfortunate. I think like this might be Mox's best pay-per-view match. I enjoyed this match more than I even did his match with Chris Jericho at Revolution, but I might be in a minority there. But
did you watch his Hager match on Dynamite?
Yes, this was better than that.
All right, yeah,
I thought so.
Yeah, okay.
What did you think, though?
Of this match or the Hager match?
Which one did you prefer? Is what I'm asking.
Oh, of course, this.
Oh yeah, I thought so. Like big time, like not even close.
Match. Yeah, this is this. I actually felt. I felt like this defended or protected Harper. Or sorry.
Yeah, I know, right? I did the same thing when I first started talking about this match.
I think he's well defended with this. I guess he kicked out of 1 and then 2.1, and then he didn't even tap out. So it just shows that Brody Lee still has some stuff, but I think he still needs to rehab. Like
he's gonna have to get rehab because I think he just filled the spot because they really had nobody for Mox. Because like Brian Cage was hurt, they brought him back here at this pay-per-view, and now he's being built up to be Mox's next challenger. They needed somebody for the spring pay-per-view. Brody Lee was fresh off of being a huge reveal for the Dark Order, and it was like a quick fix for a pay-per-view. So now it's like he's going to go back to the mid-card, because he's pretty much bumped. I don't see him getting another title shot for a while. He was, I don't want to say he was a filler opponent, but like that's what it kind of comes off as, right? Like, but he's going to go back to the mid.
If it wasn't for him being Brody Lee or Luke Harper, I still don't like his, Mr. Brody Lee gimmick. It's still a bit unsettling to how he debuted, because it's still his polar opposite to what we thought he was going to be in AEW. So, I mean, do you think he's going to get like a gimmick like change or something?
I actually like it.
Oh, really?
I do like just the way he talks down to his underlings and acts like a big boss. Like it's clearly a heel. Like clearly it's Vince McMahon parody, but I think he's making it work, wearing the suits and eating a steak weird and talking down to all his underlings. I think it's made me more interested in the Dark Order only to see him. I don't care about anybody else in the faction other than him. So I mean, me caring about him actually matters because I've always been a fan of Mr. Brody Lee's work. I've always liked him as a wrestler.
Obviously, whatever gimmick Mr. Brody Lee is, it doesn't give you like its initial Dark Order gimmick that it was when Dark Order, Stu Grayson and Evil Uno portrayed at first with a little voodoo stuff. So it's I don't know. I just feel like there needs to be a happy middle. I feel like it's just kind of weird comedic, like, oh, he's just talking to these weird masked men or painted men and talking down on them. But I don't know. I guess I gotta keep watching.
Just see where it goes from here. But it's he's going back to the mid card, and he's probably gonna get rehabbed and get a bunch of wins underneath the main event position. And then like they're gonna rehab him. He's gonna squash a lot of people. He's gonna get a lot of wins going forward to help make people forget about the fact that he lost to the world champion. He will get rehab, but he isn't gonna be at the top of the card, I don't think, going forward.
Yeah, he'll definitely take some time, but I don't think this will this is nothing bad at all, in my opinion.
No, and I felt kind of underwhelmed with him just passing out when I first watched it, but now that I've looked back on it, since we've taken some time to do this review, the finish was clever.
No, I love the finish. Like, that is the one thing I love the most out of all of it.
Yeah,
was the finish.
Because like Mox's finisher was clearly not working. The guy was just going to keep kicking out, so he had to resort to his legitimate MMA training. Because I think Mox has done like jiu-jitsu training or something in his spare time, like outside of wrestling. So
and it's very unexpected for Mox to pull out a submission, because we've never seen him pull it off, and then just for him to dish it out on Brody was very unexpected. Kayfabe was, oh shoot, he's not going for his high impact paradigm shift. What is this going on? And he just passes out.
Yeah, so and he just pulled the submission out of his ass, and he was able to win. So it shows the resourcefulness of the world champion to keep his belt. And he did a little promo after saying anybody who wants it next can go after him. Well, next up for him.
I'm loving this Moxley run. I'm not gonna lie.
He's a superstar, man. He's a
my
superstar. God. I've always loved Moxley. I loved him on the Independents before he went to WWE. I loved him as Dean Ambrose, even though at times he was written a bunch of comedy bullshit. But even he hated that. It's not like he liked doing that. No, it's not him naturally. This is him. Actually, this run with AEW in New Japan, I think, is even like eclipsing his original indie run. And it's only like 1 year into it. His ring work is like top notch. I've never seen him work as great as a wrestler as he has in the last year, dude. Like he's on fire.
I've been most invested in him now than ever, to be honest. Even in WWE, it's just amazing how much he can do. Right after being released, just straight off to Japan, making AEW a top brand. John Moxley is definitely bigger than ever, in my opinion.
Bigger than ever, for sure. So he's retained the world title, and his next challenger will be Brian Cage. That's the next match for the AEW World title. I thought they'd be saving it for whatever their summer pay-per-view is, whether they do All Out again or they give it a different name. They'll have a summer pay-per-view they plan to do for a year, and I thought that's when they would save that match for, but it's going to be happening at Fyter Fest, which I think happens in the summer too, but it happens before their summer pay-per-view, and they will announce the date of Fyter Fest on Dynamite this week. So, future world title match to look forward to will be Jon Moxley versus Brian Cage, and that's an interesting matchup, dude. I look forward to that.
I never thought they would be in a ring, so this will be fun. I wonder how the program is going to be like.
We will tune in on Dynamite to find out, I suppose.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Says next week will be the first week to build that up. So then we go to the second main event of the evening, but really the actual main event, because it was the last match of the show. And that, of course, being the Stadium Stampede match. And I'm sure me and Gabe will have a lot to say about this one. So it was the Inner Circle, that being Chris Jericho's faction of himself, Jake Hager, Sammy Guevara, Santana, and Ortiz against the Elite. Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, the Young Bucks, that being Matt and Nick Jackson, and of course their ally as of the last few months and since his debut, Broken Matt Hardy. Or Damascus is what he's going by now. Damascus is
Damascus, Broken.
Whatever you want to refer to him as. So this was a spectacle. So they show us the stadium, and you gotta love these guys' entrance. So the Inner Circle. You want to say something about it before I kind of go into detail about it, or?
I mean, like, as soon as they entered, I texted you that I was loving it, and that was right when Inner Circle entered. I'm like, are you serious? They're gonna enter in this. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the Inner Circle comes out first, and Jericho's theme hits first. So like, Judas starts playing, and then they're introduced like legitimate sports athletes, and all members of the Inner Circle have legitimate football gear on. They have jerseys, they have shoulder pads, look like they have cleats on, shin pads. They're all ready to go. They look like football players, because you see they're competing. I guess it's where the Jacksonville Jaguars play, is at that particular... Yeah. So all the Jacksonville Jaguar cheerleaders were there, too, cheering on everybody as they entered. So, like... then the Elite come out, and they're just wrestlers coming out with, like, smoke or, like, whatever.
Yeah, I know in the little video package... Inner Circle's like, oh, we've never fought each other, we've never had any discourse, we are one, and I guess that's the resemblance of the uniforms. So
yeah, that they were more in unison than the Elite were, because the Elite all come out individually. The Bucks come out, Kenny Omega comes out, Matt Hardy comes out, and then Hangman Page, oddly enough, is the last to supposedly come out, but he's absent, and Matt Jackson's like, what the fuck, pretty much. He's like, where is this guy? Like, what's going on? And Kenny Omega says, rest assured, he'll be here. Trust me, guys. He's coming. He won't let us down, is pretty much what he's telling his team members. So they end up, like, charging at each other from, like, wherever they're at the different ends of the stadium. So they just start running at each other like it's a goddamn action movie. And they all just start fighting around the ring. And so eventually they end up getting in the ring, and a bunch of moves are done, and Sammy Guevara ends up going outside, and he looks over, and he is shocked to see Chuck Norris style Hangman Page on a horse, and Page charges towards Sammy Guevara on this horse, and basically, like, I guess scares him back into the ring. So he ends up Sammy ends up getting back, tries to hit a shooting star press on Matt Hardy, but he ends up eating a twist of fate. Eventually, later on, Sammy does end up hitting his shooting star, and he wipes everybody out who is like outside the ring. Yeah. Then Matt Jackson, who is a madman, may I say, because
this guy is crazy. He has bruised ribs.
He hurt his ribs legitimately the Wednesday before on Dynamite, and he insisted that he be the one to deliver a moonsault off the goalpost, and he did so onto Chris Jericho for a near fall. So what's weird is I could have swore they advertised this as it had to end in the ring, but then they changed their mind, I guess, or maybe that was just misinformation, because this ended up being a falls count anywhere.
Oh, yeah. I think
10-man match. It was better as a result. Instead of them having to go in the ring all the time for pins, they could just try and pin their opponents anywhere. So,
Brayden, back to Matt, though. The first time I winced was when he took a power bomb. I forgot from who, but Matt took a power bomb, and power bombs are not nice to take, and he has broken ribs, so that wasn't fun to witness.
Yeah, he did. I thought he was going to do very minimal stuff. I'm stupid for believing that. I'm stupid for believing that, though, right? Like, of course he had to.
Stuff like it was a regular match, and I'm like, Matt, you're gonna have
you're hurt, bud.
Ribs if you keep going.
You're hurt, bud. Like, why are you doing all this crazy? You have your brother there who could do it for you, but no, he insisted.
I think Matt was like, no, Nick, I gotta do this moonsault. I'm like, do you really? And he did, and then.
So I might have to say this. So they all fight, and I guess Hangman Page came to the show drunk, because he just rode his horse to basically like the concourse or the actual inside the stadium, and he's just looking around for Sammy Guevara. But the last time we actually seen Sammy, he was fighting with everybody around the ring still. So Hangman starts looking around, he gets off his horse, and then he decides, well, it's time to go find the bar. So then he goes to find a place to drink, because that's part of his gimmick now. So after this, the fight spills to the stands, so they cut back to the actual stadium, and Matt Hardy and Kenny Omega for a long time are fighting with Santana and Ortiz all around. They fight so much that... basically, I forget. I think Santana and Ortiz end up power bombing Kenny through like a table that was set up like by a stand, and they take him out.
Oh yeah.
And then they end up double teaming Matt Hardy until they get to the pool. And actually, I think I missed some stuff before that. So.
There was a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, no, I am on track. I am on track. They do beat down Matt Hardy, and they throw him into the pool. Okay, so Matt Hardy is in the pool. I guess this happened to be water from the Lake of Reincarnation, and I'll explain that in just a little more here. So they're basically... Santana and Ortiz are trying to murder Matt Hardy on pay-per-view. They're trying to drown this guy to death.
Murder is a popular,
It is.
post-pandemic pay-per-views,
tossing people off buildings, burying them alive. It's a common occurrence. So they're trying to drown Matt Hardy, and there's like a way... They cut to the part where you could see through it, because it's like there's like a little plastic section. So you see Matt making like wacky faces under the water, and then all of a sudden he makes the V1 sign with his hand, and then a Matt fact pops up on the screen that Matt can hold his breath for, I forget the exact amount, but like 358 or 360 seconds or whatever. Something. And he basically hulks up his V1 and fights back against them, but then they overpower him again, and he gets put back underwater. But then he reincarnates as like traditional broken Matt Hardy and goes super, and basically fights them both off. As this is going on, Jake Hager ends up backstage, and he finds Hangman's horse.
This is my favorite part.
This was so good. This was so good. So it teases it for a while, because he just assumes he finds the same sign that leads to the bar that Hangman had seen earlier. So in Jake Hager's mind, he's thinking, that motherfucker's at the bar. I'm gonna go meet him there. So Jake Hager, this tough fucking MMA fighter, goes to the bar so he can have a confrontation with Hangman Page. But before that, we see more wackiness with Santana and Ortiz and Matt Hardy. So it's basically a handicap match in the stands here. But Matt is able to use a fucking bell. A bell that you ring, like a really loud bell that you'd see like at a church or something. He rings this bell to get the advantage, and like Ortiz has like convulsions. This thing is so loud. It's like he can't stand the sound. It's
yet Matt is okay.
He's like, yeah, Matt's fine, but like Ortiz is selling the fact that this bell is so loud. And in this, Matt is able to subdue Ortiz by duct taping him to a wheelchair that's just chilling there. It was just a wheelchair. Actually, they teased it a few times, and I thought they were going to double team Matt and throw him down some stairs, like what happened to Zach Gowen, but that's probably too risky. So what it was there for was just, it was a way to subdue Ortiz. He gets duct taped. Then Santana tries to save him, but Matt Hardy basically overwhelms him and shoves him in a freezer and locks him in a freezer, is pretty much what happened there. And he took him out. So then we cut back to the bar, and we see Jake Hager enter the bar where Hangman Page is drinking. And he basically says, well, I knew you'd be here. And he's like, and then Hangman goes, yeah. And he asks Jake, are you here to fight? Or are you here to drink? And before Jake could answer his question, I think Hangman said something along the lines of, because I'm here for both. And then they start trading blows and they start fighting and beating the shit out of each other. Jake does like a bunch of power moves on him. There was a part where Jake, like a fucking Looney Tunes cartoon, like you'd see Bugs Bunny do, Jake Hager drags Hangman Page across the bar stand, knocking down alcohol bottles and glasses and all that, and throws them. He suffers I think like Jake Hager even overpowered him, did a gut wrench powerbomb on a pool table.
Oh, that must have hurt.
That looked like it sucked big time.
I went so hard on the pool table. No. That thing's hard.
So that goes on, and then we cut to the field. So now we see Matt Jackson battling Sammy Guevara, while Chris Jericho, at another end of the field, is battling Nick Jackson. So they battle, they do their stuff, and then Matt, we've been through this a million times, he had broken ribs going into this fucking match. He starts Northern Lights suplexing Sammy Guevara, and he keeps going. And it's basically like he's going to do the fucking touchdown 100 yards, performing consecutive Northern Lights suplexes. So then we cut again to Jericho and Nick Jackson, and they battle, and they kind of trade spots back and forth. And then Jericho gets distracted by the Jaguar mascot. And so Jericho, being the heel, can't let anybody have any fun. And he delivers the Judas effect to the fucking mascot and goes, I hate mascots, you idiot. Like just the usual Jericho thing. It was fantastic. And there comes a point where I don't remember what he hit on Nick, but he was able to subdue Nick. And Nick was able to kick out at like 2.9 or whatever. And Jericho thought he got a 3. And so he and his favorite referee, it's Aubrey Edwards is her name, I believe. Yeah, she referees like everything when it comes to Jericho. They go back in the tent to look over the footage like it's a football game. And he's yelling at her saying she's the worst referee. She's blowing a call, blah, blah, blah. Like just like what you do when you stall a game in an actual football game. It was awesome. Then from the tent we cut to back to Jake Hager destroying Hangman Page, and then Kenny Omega comes to save the day. It's his tag team championship partner, his elite team member. He's gonna save the day, and together they're able to overwhelm Jake Hager and do some double team maneuvers, but nothing cooler than Kenny Omega helping Hangman Page flip into the buckshot lariat, which he hits on Jake Hager, and Hager flies over and falls like under the fucking bar, pretty much. That was beautiful. That looked great.
That was great.
So
I didn't think that was possible.
It looked so great, dude. Like that was like that was so fucking cool. It was like he flipped him by his legs. Hangman did a wonderful little flip, and then he delivered that fucking lariat, and it took Jake Hager out. And that was the last we've seen of Hager. But before we end the Kenny and Hangman Page's little thing, Kenny gets himself some milk. Hangman Page pours himself some alcohol, and they share a drink as tag team champions.
I'm not gonna lie, Adam Page I've been loving him.
He's a superstar in the making, dude. He's got his gimmick works, dude. It's a great gimmick.
His gimmick, oh my god, it's great. Like I didn't buy it at first when he was like feuding with Jericho for the world title.
That was before he really like found his character, though.
Yeah, and now he's just doing cowboy shit.
Drinking on the job, showing up late, just not giving a fuck. It's just everybody can just like relate to not giving a fuck, right? Like that's like a thing, like just not giving a shit about anything. That makes you cool, and that's what Hangman Page is able to do. And it was on display in this match. They fucking emphasized that so much. I thought, much like he...
If he wins the world's belt like any time now, I would be behind it. Like,
he'll win it. He'll win it at some point. I think that's inevitable that he wins the belt. It may not be anytime soon, but he'll be groomed for that.
Oh yes,
believe me. So eventually, Matt Jackson does finish getting over the 100-point yard line with Sammy Guevara. He did make the touchdown with those suplexes. Jericho's done challenging Aubrey Edwards. He finally gives up on her trying to give him the win. But then he runs into the Young Bucks, and they both lay him out. They both double team him.
Didn't the ref give Matt a penalty for some reason?
Oh yes, I completely forgot about that. That was so random.
Why that happened? Like,
okay, it was a stupid WCW reference. So there was a decent wrestler named Alex Wright who competed for WCW, and he wasn't really given a good shot. But then they just thought it was because they didn't have a good gimmick for him. So they gave him this flashy fucking jacket and made him dance as a part of his gimmick to try and get him over. And it did the exact opposite. I mean, crowds cared for him even less after he started dancing. So Matt did that dance in reference to Alex Wright's shitty gimmick. So since he referenced an outdated shitty gimmick, the referee penalized him for it. So then he felt that was unjust and super kicked them. But that's what that was. So that was that reference. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So yes, that happened. But then after that, the Young Bucks are able to double team Chris Jericho. They set up a table. They put him on it. Matt leaps up to where the fucking seats are for the stadium, which is quite high up compared to where Jericho is. Let me remind you. And then he runs all the way up a big flight of stairs so he can start running all the way down. And he picks up momentum. He's running. He does a big jump onto basically the barricade that separates the edge of where the seats are from the seats themselves. And he does this massive, humongous splash on Chris Jericho through the table and sells it big time. That looked crazy. And then as Jericho is laying there, Hangman Page shows up with the stripe marker for football fields, like the little stripe maker, and just runs it over Jericho, over his fucking crotch and face, and Jericho's just left for dead at that point. So after this, Sammy Guevara had been laid out, but he gets woken up by fucking the sprinkler system. So he gets it in the face, then he gets it in his crotch, and he's selling the fact that he just got sprayed like a goof. And then he looks around, and he may not see any of his Inner Circle team members, but he doesn't see any member of the Elite. So he assumed that they'd all got beaten up and that they were the last team standing because of him, and he thinks he's won it for his team. But then he hears a familiar noise. He hears a vehicle. He hears a horn, and he turns around, and there he sees the people who tried to murder him about a month ago on Dynamite. Matt Hardy and Kenny Omega are in a golf cart. And Sammy Guevara has flashbacks of when the last time they ran a golf cart at him on Dynamite, and he begins to head for the hills. And he runs to the stands, and he jumps up to where the seats are, similar to where Nick Jackson had jumped off for the Jericho spot. And then Kenny and Matt basically jump up into the bleachers as well, and they chase him up to this big, humongous platform. Sammy's able to fight off Matt Hardy, but him and Kenny basically trade shots. And they build to Kenny hitting a V-trigger up on this top platform. Now below them, which is very, very below them, dude. Like, this was a massive drop. There was a huge crash pad there, but I cannot overstate how high these two dudes were up. Like, this was an insane drop. Like, I think it was over 20 feet, dude. It was nuts. And so Kenny Omega delivers a goddamn one-winged angel off this platform in the stands through this big drop where there's a crash pad, and him and Sammy crash and burn. Like, that's crazy enough for Kenny to do that, but how about Sammy Guevara, who's taken that move where you can't really see what the fuck's going on, and you're getting, like, you're upside down and you get dropped, like, right side up, and, like, there's nowhere to go but down? That was a crazy spot, man. That was insane. After we'd seen so many insane things. Like, there was about a ton of insane things. Like, I'm sure I'm still missing out stuff because it's been a day since I've seen it, but I'm trying to remember the match as much as I remember it and how it was put together. But then Kenny basically gets the pin on Sammy Guevara, and the Elite win the Stampede, or the Stadium Stampede match. So it was the most ridiculous, chaotic, insane, fucking nuts piece of fucking wrestling art I've ever seen. But you know what? As much as I can say, I love the Boneyard match. I thought the Firefly Funhouse was very creative. I thought the Money in the Banks had their moments. There were times where those were so cinematic that it kind of took me out of the fact that this was supposed to be a contest. This had similar ups that those had, but you never lost the feeling that these guys were competing against each other and that you were in a movie. This felt like a match the whole time. Like, there were times at the Boneyard that it was like too cinematic. It didn't really feel like a contest. Firefly Funhouse, even more so. Money in the Bank, the ridiculous cameos that didn't need to happen, and the Home Alone style humor that went overboard, and there wasn't really working. It was like a lot of just stupid brawling and shit. This had moves. There was a period in the match about very early on where they were trading super kicks. Jericho does the lion salt. Jake Hager comes in for a tackle where they literally did 5 minutes worth of stuff in the ring. They worked some spots and shit early on, and then even as they were brawling, it still felt like a false count anywhere between 10 dudes in a stadium where you could pin the guy anywhere in the venue. Do you kind of understand what I'm saying in my analysis here?
I understand it. I feel like it's the Tommaso and Gargano.
Except better.
Yeah.
Except better, because that thing got boring in some spots and went on too long. There was not one time where I felt that this went on too long.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. I was, in my seat still wondering, okay, what can they do next? Where are they going to top? Not wondering, oh, damn, how long has it been? When is it going to be done? No, this had me on the edge of my seat 100% as soon as Inner Circle entered with the football gear.
You knew, okay. You knew you're in for something special.
Yeah, I knew this was gonna be something, and then I kind of paid more attention when I saw a tweet of Jericho. He's like, "Oh, this is something I haven't done in my past 30 years or something." So I'm like, "Wow, is he really just saying this out of for promotion purposes, or does he mean it?" And I feel like he meant it here. So it's
big time. So
this is a great match. I don't know how I would rate it because
I give it 2 thumbs up. Easy 2 thumbs up.
Because I'm not thinking of anything. I mean, of course, there's negatives, but I don't care. Because this match was just great.
Okay, let's actually, since this is going to be an interesting discussion, let's talk about the negatives. The only thing I thought was a little too hokey was maybe some of the Matt Hardy stuff at the pool.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I thought the Lake of Reincarnation is only at the Hardy compound, and also I know he's done it in Impact backstage, but it's because it's a bucket of it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But this is the Jacksonville Jaguars is a little pool. How would this reincarnate past Matt Hardy's, and Ortiz and Santana are still regular too? They didn't change at all. I thought they would change into their LAX gimmick for a second.
No, they didn't.
But
so
it was
and the V1 screen, but it was a cool Easter egg, but that was a little too goofy. And maybe you could argue that the Hangman Jake Hager stuff, but that built to something that really mattered later on. It was a funny.
I was liking everything of that.
Yeah, the bar scene. I don't have any complaint about that. I said them drinking, but they fought right after they exchanged words. It's not like they hammed it up and got drunk together. They fought very shortly after Jake Hager entered there. The only thing I thought that was a little too silly was some of the Matt Hardy shit. Other than that, it was fine.
Other than kayfabe, I thought Matt taking all of that punishment and doing these spots I think that was still a bit too dangerous. I don't know how he is now, but I think he should have I don't know, not done some of those, the moonsault.
Oh, Matt Jackson was a maniac. He should not have done half of what he did.
That's my real gripe about it, because Matt, I think he needs to cool it down still. He still has a career ahead of him still.
Yeah, you want to be a top tag team for the next decade, you got to start slowing down there, bud. Especially when you're working hurt.
Yeah, that's what Matt Hardy's doing. That's what Chris Jericho's doing. They're slowing down, and they're still being, in the Hot Topic. So, Matt just being bruised like that, he needs to know when it's time.
If I had broken ribs, dude, I wouldn't be moonsaulting from a goalpost.
I don't think I would. I don't think I'll do it even with.
Yeah, even if I was 100%, I probably wouldn't do that. But anyway, this gets 2 thumbs up for me, and I enjoyed.
2 thumbs up, too.
Okay, so here's the thing. So at Revolution, they had match of the year there for the AEW World Tag Titles. The Young Bucks versus Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, I think is going to stand the test for me. I think that's going to remain my match of the year, especially with the way things are in the world. But the rest of the show, it was very good, but it wasn't as consistent as this one. I think this is the best pay-per-view they have done this year, and I think it's the best pay-per-view that is pretty much happened this year. And you know what? I say that because this was a show that had a lot working against it. It had no regular audience. It had to follow up last year's event, and you know what? It might not have been as good as last year's event because there was no crowd, but the fact that this pay-per-view was as fantastic and solid and consistent as it was, despite the pandemic handicap, you got to give AEW credit for putting on such a show with such a big,
magnificent show
with everything going against it. Like, it should not. With how we've seen WWE put together stuff, and we know that they have people react to stuff on Dynamite, but we know some of the pay-per-view matches have fallen a little flat and this, that, and the other, right? Like, look at WrestleMania, look at Money in the Bank. We'll see how TakeOver goes in June, but maybe that's because WWE just doesn't get the modern product. I think these guys just know modern wrestling enough that they can make it work in any environment, really. I think that they proved their chops tonight. I hope they got a good buy rate for the show because it was worth every penny. And the fact that they could put on a show as fantastic as this with the pandemic causing them to not have any live people in attendance speaks volumes. And that makes the show more impressive, that it was as great as it was without a legitimate crowd. I would give the show an A+.
A+. Wow. Yeah, I can't really think of anything, very negative other than Shawn Spears.
Yeah, that was bad. But, like,
but
one bad out of, like, 8?
Yeah. So, yeah, I'll give it an A2, thumbs up. I'll give it 2 thumbs up for this
No, I'd definitely give this pay-per-view 2 thumbs up. The only show that's comparable that I think could be as comparable is TakeOver Portland. Yeah, TakeOver Portland, that had a lot of fantastic matches. And it had a crowd, which gives it a bit of a leg up. But as I said, I'm adding my score due to how much this show achieved without a crowd. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
that's an impressive thing to me, so that adds to my scoring. That's why I'm giving it a plus instead of just an A, because, like, this show was as fantastic as it was with the handicap that the whole wrestling industry has been put under, and you can't have fans in attendance, and they still completely over-delivered, and that was just, it was awesome to me. I hope that the show does a good buy rate, because these guys, they killed it. They absolutely killed it.
I'll give it an A. Like, the only gripe is Shawn Spears, and it's also weird for me. I wasn't really that interested in the card, but these matches did make me, like, believe and realize how good each matches were great in its own right, on its own variety. And their whole purpose is for us to buy the pay-per-view, the buy rates and all that, because they have these flashy, like, cards, but the execution just never holds up to what they're promising us. Like, my biggest regret is still AJ versus Shinsuke, and they just had that on SmackDown TV, which is kind of unsettling for me because that has always been, like, the match I've always wanted in a WWE umbrella, and it's still never really developed into something cool after WrestleMania. So AEW is something to look out for.
Yeah, I bet you're going to be watching Dynamite this week or be more intrigued to watch it this week after seeing that show. I bet you'll be more interested in tuning in now, right? So that is a success because I will be tuning in too. So now it is the end here, folks, which means it's time for the cheapest of plugs. It's that time of the podcast where we shamelessly plug all of our social media. And Gabe, you usually have something to plug yourself, so the floor is now yours.
I do have something to plug. On my latest episode of How Goes It with Gabe Nozid, I did interview Josh Fuller, one of the most up-and-coming wrestlers in the DMV area. But sadly, he's been sidelined with a concussion injury, and he just talks about his struggles with concussion, protocols, and his wrestling journey so far. Like, he was about to actually have a feud with Marco Stunt in an indie show until Marco Stunt started to gain fruition, and he also wrestled Hornswoggle in a match, and it's his most viewed match ever. Even people in India are watching it. He has 300,000 views on his YouTube channel because of his match against Hornswoggle. So go check that out. It's a great listen. I think it's my favorite episode so far. It was just very chill. And other than that, just follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Gabe Nozid, GabeNozid. And I like to shout out to one of my favorite Joshi wrestlers who sadly took her own life, Hana Kimura. it's sad too. I was just getting into her stuff like a couple months ago, and I was even telling my sister how great of a work she was, and my sister was also interested, and she doesn't watch wrestling that much, but it sucks that cyberbullying is getting to what it's becoming, and it just has to stop, in my opinion. And sadly, we won't really know if it will,
It's
because that's
tragic.
how
Yeah, that's tragic. She was only 22. Like,
only 22. It's like I'm right around there too, so it's horrifying to know that words do hurt. And yeah, she had a promising career. Like, I really liked her work in Stardom, so
mhm.
I just hope she's just resting easy wherever she is in the stars or wherever. So yeah, that's all I got to plug, cuz who knows it? Gabe knows it.
So just I want to echo off that this is a time where we're supposed to be like together and use communication for the best form of humanity to help everybody
Yes,
through
sir.
this tough time. We all have to stay in, we all have to stay indoors and stay away from getting sick. And we shouldn't be using that time to bully people and send harassment. This is a time to use this technology to unite all of us rather than like use it as like an attack weapon. This is not the time to be doing that, and it is very like uh she has the her whole family has the condolences of everybody on the Apron Bumps podcast. It's just a very sad and tragic story. Like the last week was not a very good week for the wrestling community, and
Oh no,
rest in
with
peace to
Shad
Shad, yeah,
Gaspard.
Shad Gaspard as well, and just everybody who might have been, and then they aired the Owen Hart on Dark Side of the
Oh,
Ring.
I
Just
remember. Yep,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
watched
yeah.
that.
It was just a very tough week for wrestling fans, and hopefully maybe this podcast can, I'm bringing it up now, but before you heard this, hopefully it was some entertainment to kind of alleviate how a lot of the sadness and maybe how some people are feeling right now. So
That's what we're
with
here to do.
with that being said, if you have listened to this podcast on Anchor and you want to keep listening or whatever, I'll give the little podcast a download. We are also available on the following platforms. We are available on Breaker, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Copy RSS, and the most important of all, in my opinion, that being Spotify itself. So if you've heard us on any of those platforms, do give it a nice little download and follow maybe the Apron Bumps page on there so you know when you get future episodes, because we try to do them as much as we can. It's usually for the shows we deem important enough, and there is one coming up, that being NXT TakeOver in Your House at the beginning of June. We will do not match card predictions, but predictions for the card itself, and then the actual review, much like we've done for Double or Nothing, Money in the Bank, and WrestleMania previously. Also, if you did not hear this on Anchor or any of its supporting platforms, and you actually watched the video form of this video and you enjoyed what you liked and heard, please give that subscribe button a little click there. And as I said, I always upload a video form of this podcast to my YouTube channel, that being youtube.com/Bracer. So that's all we have for you this week, ladies and gentlemen, and we are going to Spanish Fly on out of here. See you next time, folks.